Book of Heaven, Volume 4. 5th to the 31st of January 1903. Page 168 to 173. January 5, 1903. Freedom is necessary in order to recognize the good and the evil. This morning I felt almost free of sufferings. I myself did not know what to do, when I felt I was outside of myself, and I saw people from our country who, in addition to the words and the calumnies they had spoken, were plotting to come to deeds. In the meantime I saw blessed Jesus, and I said, "Lord, you give too much liberty to these infernal men. Up until now it has been about infernal words, but now they want to reach the point of laying hands on your ministers. Bind them, and have compassion on them, and, at the same time, defend those who belong to you." And he, "Daughter, this freedom is necessary in order to recognize the good and the evil. Know, however, that I am tired of man, so tired that I share it with you. In fact, when you feel that tiredness of this state of victim, and almost the will to go out of it, this comes to you from me, and I warn you to be attentive not to put your will in, for I am looking for the will of the creature to lean on it and chastise the rebels. But, let us try. Again I will make you suffer, and they will be left without strength and will not be able to do anything of what they want. Who can say what I suffered and how many times he renewed my crucifixion?" And while doing this, raising his hand toward heaven, he told me, "My daughter, I did not make man for the earth, but for heaven. His mind, his heart, and everything that his interior contains were to exist in heaven. Had he done this, he would have received the influence of the Most Holy Trinity within his three powers, and it would have been copied within himself. But since he occupies himself with earth, he receives mud, rot, and the whole bilge of vices that the earth contains." January 7, 1903. Jesus reproduces in Luisa the very sufferings he suffered in his humanity, and with the same power and effects. Continuing in my usual state, I was thinking, how is it possible, how can it be true, that because of a few sufferings of mine the Lord would suspend chastisements and debilitate the human strength so that they may not start revolutions and form iniquitous laws? Besides, who am I to earn all this with a few sufferings? While I was thinking of this, blessed Jesus came and told me, "My daughter, neither you nor the one who directs you have comprehended your state. Indeed, in your state of sufferings you disappear completely, and I alone, not mystically, but in living flesh, reproduce the very sufferings which my humanity suffered. Was it perhaps not my sufferings that debilitated demons, enlightened blinded minds, and, in a word, formed the redemption of man? And if they could do this at that time in my humanity, can they perhaps not do it now in yours? If a king went to live in a little hovel, and from there he dispensed graces, help and coins, he would continue his office of king. If anyone would not believe this, one would say that he is foolish. If that is a king, he can do good in the little hovel as much as in the palace. Or rather, one admires his goodness more, because, king as he is, he does not disdain to live in little hovels and miserable huts. Such is your case. I comprehended all this with clarity, and I said, "My Lord, everything you say is fine, but the whole difficulty of my state is in the coming of the priest." And he, "My daughter, even if a king lived in little hovels, because of circumstances, necessity and his very status of king, it is appropriate for his ministers never to leave him alone, but to keep him company, serving him and obeying him in whatever he wants." I was left so convinced that I did not know what else to say. January 9, 1903. Everything is written in the hearts of those who believe, hope and love. This morning I was feeling all oppressed, and since Monsignor had come to visit me, saying that he was not sure that it was Jesus Christ who operated in me, when blessed Jesus came, he told me, "My daughter, in order to comprehend a subject well it takes belief, because without belief everything is dark in the human intellect. On the other hand, the mere believing turns on a light in the mind, and by means of this light one can recognize with clarity truth and falsehood, when it is grace that operates, when it is nature, and when the devil. See, the gospel is known to all, but who comprehends the meaning of my words, and the truths contained in it? Who keeps them in his heart and makes of them a treasure with which to purchase the eternal kingdom? One who believes. As for all others, not only do they not understand a thing, but they use my words to mock them and to make fun of the holiest things. So, it can be said that everything is written in the hearts of those who believe, hope and love, while nothing is written for everyone else. The same with you. One who has a little bit of belief sees things with clarity and finds the truth. One who does not, sees things as all confused. January 10, 1903. The most pleasing and consoling words for the sweet Mama. Dominus tecum. This morning, after I struggled very much, the Queen Mother came with the baby in her arms, and she gave him to me, telling me to keep him corded with continuous acts of love. I did as much as I could, and while I was doing this, Jesus told me, "My beloved, the most pleasing and most consoling words for my mother are, Dominus tecum, the Lord is with thee." In fact, as soon as they were pronounced by the archangel, she felt the whole of the divine being communicated to her, and therefore she felt invested with divine power, in such a way that, in the face of the divine power, her own dissolved, and so my mother remained with the divine power in her hands. January 11, 1903. She sees Monsignor fighting for the sake of religion. As the confessor had told me to pray according to the intention of Monsignor, finding myself outside of myself, I could see that it did not regard Monsignor, but other people. Among them I could see a very good lady, but all consternated and crying, and Monsignor, beneath the arms of a cross with Christ crucified on it, defending it. He was going to have the occasion to fight for the sake of religion. And I saw blessed Jesus saying, "I will confuse them." January 13, 1903. Luisa sees the Most Holy Trinity. The evil of adulations. As I was in my usual state, I seemed to see the Most Holy Trinity. They were looking at one another, and in those gazes their beauty was so great that they would remain ecstatic at the mere gazing upon one another. In this state they overflowed with love, and were as though stirred by that love, to then become more intensely ecstatic. So, all of their good and delight was comprised within themselves, and the whole of their eternal life, beatitude and exercise, was enclosed in this word alone: love. And the whole beatitude of the saints was formed by this perfect operating of the Most Holy Trinity. While I was seeing this, the Son assumed the form of the crucified, and coming out from their midst, he came to me, sharing with me the pains of the crucifixion. And while remaining with me, he brought himself once again into their midst, and offered his sufferings and mine, satisfying for the love that all creatures owed them. Who can say their delight, and how satisfied they were by the offering of the Son? It seemed that, since in creating the creatures nothing had come out of their interior but contained flames of love, so much so, that in order to give vent to this love they began to create many other images of themselves. Only when they receive what they have given, are they then satisfied, that is, love they gave, love they want. So, the most awful affront is to not love them. Yet, O God, 3 times holy, who is there that loves you? After this, they disappeared, but who can say what I understood? My mind got lost, and my tongue is unable to articulate a word. Then, after a little while, blessed Jesus came back with his face covered with spit and with mud, and he said to me, "My daughter, praises, adulations, are spit and mud that dirty and smear the soul, and blind her mind, so as to prevent her from knowing who she really is, especially if they do not start from the truth. In fact, if they start from the truth and the person is worthy of praises, knowing the truth she will give the glory to me, but if they start from falsehood, they drive the soul to such excess that she will confirm herself more in evil." January 31, 1903. Effects of the crown of thorns of Jesus. After much struggling, I saw blessed Jesus in my interior for just a little, wearing a crown of thorns. I began to look at him and to compassionate him, and he told me, "My daughter, I wanted to suffer these thorns in my head not only to expiate all the sins of thought, but to unite the divine intelligence to the human." In fact, the divine intelligence was as though dispersed in the human minds, and my thorns called it from heaven and grafted it once again. Not only this, but for those who were to manifest divine things I obtained help, strength and elucidation so that they might make them known to others.